There are usually two ways in which we deal with adversity or failure. I would like to point you to a third and possibly a better way of dealing with failure and adversity. So let's talk about it a little bit. Now, obviously, this isn't one of my traditional academic educational videos, but it's educational in terms of, life lessons and all. Most of what I'm going to share today is based in my personal experience as well as is drawn from my readings. So, whenever we encounter an adverse situation, a defeat, or a failure in life, there are usually two ways in which we tend to respond. And I think most of the times we are socialized into it. We either blame someone else for our failures, someone who might have actually done and participated in precipitating a failing attempt, or we blame ourselves. So usually it is so and so did this to me and hence I lost my job, or I wasn't good enough and I didn't get the job. These are the two extremes of our responses to failure. And in both the cases, we go then into this negative realm, which eventually ends up hurting ourselves and hurts the people around us. Because if we are not healthy and if we have either internalized this grievance against the world or have started blaming ourselves for all our failures, naturally we are not acting as a healthy person. Now, I would encourage you to consider another way, and this has permeated most of my work on this channel, especially when I deal with issues related to interpersonal relationships. I've noticed, and I've had quite a lot of failures and defeats lately, right, in the last few years, that yes, you tend to take responsibility, of course, because you have to go and reflect on what is it that I could have done better. And you also take into account, were there any people hostile to you while you were at work? I mean, these are natural things to consider. But then one needs to go beyond that, right? And what is beyond that? My strategy is that every time I have a setback, or if I experience something negative, I have trained myself to go out into the world and be kinder than usual, be softer than usual. So even if I walk into my coffee house and I am maybe in a state of anxiety and anguish, instead of taking that out on someone else, I try to give them the softest, kindest possible human interaction. Now, this is not me being generous. There is scientific research behind it that if you are in a state of anxiety or if you're feeling angry or dejected, if you do something that is good, not prayer and meditation, that helps too, but something good in the world for some other person, animal, environment, if you do an act that you can consider good in terms of interpersonal human or human and the world relationships, it will bring your anxiety levels down and make you at peace. So, the options are I stay angry at myself for having failed, which most of us do because that's how we are socialized. Or I stay angry at the world and people who are excelling at things that you could do better, and then you tell yourself they must be better connected, or people are biased against you. That's another way people cope with such things. But both those habits are ultimately destructive and would be harmful to you emotionally and psychologically and then materially in the world, because you cannot walk into this world with that kind of negative and skeptical attitude and expect people to respond to you positively. But the third thing that I mentioned, being extra kind, generous, and soft to the people around you and the strangers on the street, functions in different ways. One, as I said, scientifically, it has been proven that it will reduce your anxiety levels, it will reduce your anger, and put you at peace. But two, it will also enhance your interpersonal relationships. It will posit or offer your persona to the world as a positive force in the world. And if you come across as positive, no matter what you're going through or what has happened to you recently or in the past, chances are people will respond more positively to you. Now, I've seen this, I've experienced this. These days I substitute teach. Most American students do not take substitute teachers seriously, right? And a few weeks ago, I was at the high school, and there were a couple of kids, who were being rude. Now, I had two options, either to get angry at them and lose my temper, or to make them think of their own actions critically. So how was I able to do that? I talked to them and I said, look, do you know me? And they said no. And I was like, do you think I have any power over you? And they said, no, you're a substitute. And then I said, well, if you're being rude to me, then you're being rude to a person whom you do not know. And you're being rude to a person who has no power over you. Is that a brave act? Can you go to your friends and boast and be proud of doing what you're doing? And they both looked at each other. And what I was trying to tell them is that what you're doing is prejudice. And it's a cowardly act because you're misbehaving to someone whom you do not know. And you're disrespecting them. Now, trust me, after we had this brief exchange, both of those students came to me at the end of the class and apologized. Now, not only was I able to resolve the issue through kindness, but I was able to give them something to think about. Next time when they encounter a stranger on the street, they will know that being unkind to strangers is uncool. It's not brave, it's cowardly. So, I'm not trying to prove that I have all the answers, of course, but that being kind when you feel slighted, when you feel being sidelined, not to the people who are sidelining you, of course, if they have a position of power over you, but generally in the world, will keep you grounded, will keep you positive. And if you are positive about life and about the world, right? Remember Freire, right? Paulo Freire believes that without hope and without a belief that we can make this world a better place, we cannot affect change. But all of that must come from a place of love, self-love, but also the love of the world and people. So, in your life, if you're ever in a stressful situation, or if you're facing failure, ask yourself, what am I doing? Am I blaming myself? Am I blaming others? Or am I taking this in, learning from it, and then going out into the world and still being positive, kind, and generous? And if you do that, track how you feel. So please share any of your own experiences, any of your own ideas on this topic. I would be really, really interested in that, because just like you, I always want to learn new ways of coping with adversity, coping with stress, coping with failure. But these are just some of my thoughts, tentative as they are, for you to view and then respond. Thank you so much. Stay safe, take care, and I will see you next time. Until then, peace and love.